Hey, good evening. This is Lacy Johnson with the Lacy Johnson Podcast. Last week, we had as our guest former All-Pro center for the Minnesota Vikings and Baltimore Ravens, Matt Burke. And we got into a lot of great things about Matt and his life of achievement. But based on some feedback I've gotten and just my own realization, there are those who are out there wondering, where have you been for so long? Where had you been for so long? And I thought I'd fill in the blanks there. First of all, I think our last podcast was like the first or second week of June before we resumed with Matt last week. And just to let you know, I had a medical procedure plan that we thought would affect the program for a couple of weeks, and we could do some film clips and pre-recorded clips and get us through those 2 or 3 weeks before I was back live on the air. Well, some amazing and wonderful things happened that pushed my time away from the podcast out, not just a couple of weeks, for a few months. And I used the word amazing and wonderful. A lot of people would probably term it unfortunate, but I never look at things as unfortunate because I think there's a purpose for everything that happens in our lives. But I would say that, let me just bring you up to explain. Well, in order to do that, I'm going to have to go back probably 20, 30 years. And when I was first told by a physician that I had something called cervical disc disease. And, you know, I'm young and I'm like, okay, cool. Yeah, my back, I got a disc that hurts every once in a while, but I'm good. And when you're at that age, you ain't thinking that far ahead anyway, at least I wasn't. And so, you know, we just dealt with it and it kept going on years after years after years. Long story short, around fall of last year, end of October, beginning of November, I started noticing pain in my arm and numbness in my arm and my shoulder. And, you know, being the guy that I am, I just pushed it off and said it was going to go away. Even though I have to admit, I'm at the point now where anything new that comes up, I'm like, okay, what is this going on? But in this particular case, I was your typical guy, and I'm like, okay, it's going to go away. And I waited 2 or 3 weeks before I went to the doctor. And when I went to the doctor, explained what was going on, they took an MRI. And long story short, they called me in to review the MRI. And as soon as I saw it, I knew I was in a lot of trouble as far as what was going on with my spine. By then, or at least by now, in November, fall of last year, my spine had degenerated to the point where some of my vertebrae was pinching nerves and things like that, and I had to have cortisone shots. But bottom line is that it was obvious that I needed to do something about that. In fact, some of the vertebrae had expanded so that I could barely get spinal fluid to parts of my body. And the doctors, they were surprised that I could even walk without falling down all the time, but I could. Long story short, I had 5 cervical discs that just had degraded and was causing these issues. And we decided that, you know, we could either do a preventive maintenance and hope that carry me on for the rest of my life, or we could do some major repairs. And I decided to do major repairs. I'm like, well, doc, while I'm still younger, let's do it now and get it out of the way. And we decided that we would replace 5 cervical discs in my spine. And the whole idea was for me to go in and have those discs replaced, be in kind of like an induced coma for a couple of days to give it time to heal and settle a little bit. Spend a couple of days on the spinal floor, and within a week or so, I'll be home and start my recovery. So that was the plan. But, you know, I heard somewhere that when we start planning, God starts laughing at our planning because he knows we're not in control of anything. And so something similar in this case, it didn't quite go as planned. Now, I should explain, when we first saw my MRI, I went to the first surgeon. He took a look at it and said, well, I'm going to send you somebody that escalated it, I should say, to another surgeon who said was better than he was. And like I told him, I'm looking for a surgeon where if anything unexpected go wrong, and the way I put it, you can land the plane on the East River. And you guys probably remember there was a plane, I think it landed either on the Hudson River or the East River, but I'm pretty sure it's the East River. In New York City, it had some problem landing, and the pilot actually landed the plane on the river. Nobody died. And so that's what I want to let him know. That's what I need. And he gave me that feeling that he was one of them pilots. If something weird or unexpected went wrong, he'd be able to land the plane on the Hudson River. So I liked him, and then we decided to schedule surgery for June 16th. Went in. My wife, of course, took me, and that's the last I remember. I can't even remember them applying the anesthesia. But long story short, we go in. As I understand it, and keep in mind that I'm unconscious, I'm out. As I understand it, they performed the surgery. Everything went well. They was happy with everything, and they sent me to convalesce, for a better word, in the ICU. And around the third day of the ICU, I am told, one of my ICU doctors came in and took a look at me, and he noticed a small twitch in my face. And I haven't researched the medical reason behind this, but for whatever reason, he saw the small twitch in my face, and he decided to take me down for some further test. And I forgot exactly the name of the test, but bottom line, the test revealed that my heart was stopping, and it all went downhill from there. Long story short, and I hear that it's not uncommon. I had blood clots in my leg. I had blood clots in my lungs. I had pneumonia. My heart stopped, and they had to really, because my heart stopped, and they had to revive me. Because of that, they had to give me blood thinners. And I should explain the surgery that I had. They went in through my back and my throat. And once they gave me the blood thinner, blood started accumulating in my throat. Long story short there, they had to go back into my throat and do a second operation, pull out a lot of blood. They tell me the size of a softball. And so that's the situation I was in. I understand this went on for about 10 days, and I didn't know. But here's the thing. And I found this, a lot of the stuff I'm telling you, I found out later, why this was going on in the world, outer world, I should say. I was experiencing some things spiritually, visions and things, and that's what I'm going to share with you right now. So while all the stuff was going on in the outer world, I was having these visions, and I just stress mainly because they went on for days, long time. I can't get into all of them because we got into money, we got into power, we got into good people and bad people, and I actually saw visions of people that we today think are good people, but they really aren't. And I was showing people today we think are bad people, and they really aren't. And that's there's a scripture in the Bible that basically says, when we get to the kingdom, we're going to expect people there that's not going to be there. And we're going to see people there that we never expected to be there. In other words, we as human beings, we're not good judge of who's the good guys and bad guys. So that was part of my vision. But it all started, and I hit the highlights. So I'm in there, and it's like I'm in this cellar. And it has no windows, no doors or anything. And there are monsters out there trying to get in and get me and kill me, basically. And I can see them visually. I can see that there are, they have leashes, and there's someone behind the leash, but I never saw the face of the leash. So I just interpret the leash as something satanical. I interpret the monsters as death trying to get in and get to me and take me out. But here's the great thing about it, here's the beauty of it all. Through it all, I saw God looking over me, and I felt angels inside the cellar-like environment with me. And all the while on the outside, I could see these, and I tell people it's a combination of a big pit bull and a panther. And these are just like monster-like things, constantly trying to get me. They couldn't get in to get me. And here's the funny thing about it: every once in a while I hear them talking, and they're getting frustrated that they can't get in and get me. And then they would retreat. They would retreat and plot another strategy and launch another attack. And they must have did this about 4 or 5 times. And finally, I could hear them. They just gave up in frustration. Because once again, I felt God protecting me, and there was angels around me, and I could feel them. And I've never said this to anybody, I don't think, but all my life, I felt like I was surrounded by angels. And I don't know how to explain to people. Spiritual people probably understand what I'm talking about. Non-spiritual people probably can't identify. But I've always felt like God was protecting me with angels. And so this was one of those cases where he really showed me that. But here's the thing. Once they decided that they were going to give up and they couldn't get in and get me, all of a sudden this proverbial light that people talk about and near-death experience, I actually saw that heavenly body. And the best I can describe it is about high as a skyscraper, and it was very brilliant. It was a heavenly body like a star, except the star had about 30, 40, 50 points of lights to it. And that's the best I can describe it. And then as soon as I saw the star, we used to sing a spiritual song, a holiday song, Christmas song in grade school called Jesus, the Light of the World. And for some reason, I started hearing this song. We're walking in the light, beautiful light. Jesus is the light of the world. And as this song was being sung, the light got brighter and brighter. And at the end, I heard the chorus, we're walking the light, beautiful light, wonderful light. Go where the dewdrops are mercy and bright. Shine all around us by day and by night. Jesus, the light of the world. And this is the chorus while the songs were singing. And as soon as that last word of the chorus came out, my eyes popped open. And I'm laying down and I'm looking up, and my wife, Betty, is there with me. She's standing over me, holding my hand and patting my hand. And she's just showing a lot of love. And you have to understand, me and my wife been together for over 45 years. Like I said, we've been married over 35 years. And just having her there comforting me was special. And then I didn't tell you, earlier when I was talking to my last physician, had my last meeting with the physician, we started talking about the NBA Finals because my surgery was scheduled during the NBA Finals, and the fact that I was a big fan of Steph Curry and the Golden State Warriors. So I want to backfill that story. Bottom line, when I woke up, my wife is there. She's patting me on the hand, and finally, I don't know, I've been out for 10 days. I think I was been out for a day, and I'm just waking up. And so, all I know is I'm awake and I'm aware and I can talk. So I started asking her about business and taking care of business and things like that. And she just said to me, you don't need to worry about any of that stuff. You need to just worry about getting well. And she said it with a certain sincerity that I knew it was something that I wouldn't count on. But anyway, when she told me that, she told me the Warriors had won the NBA championship. And I smiled and closed my eyes and I said something like, okay, Steph carried them on through to the championship. And then I opened my eyes again, and my wife had positioned a graduation photo of my grandson right on the tray by the bed. So when I opened my eyes, I could see the picture of him in this little blue graduation gown. And that brought a smile to my face. And what I tell everybody is that my grandson, the way I describe him, he's my heart. And so he was there, and that made me feel good. And then she just kept telling me to just be calm and quiet. And so that's how it all ended. I was in the ICU for about 3 or 4 days. And, the nurses there, they just gave me, all my medical team, they just treated me like I was special, man. They really did. They gave me such personal treatment. It's indescribable, the type of personal treatment I got from the nursing staff, the medical staff, the pain management team. I had a very diverse set of nurses and doctors that worked on me from all over the world. And they were all kind and good to me, and I just felt they made me feel special. But a couple of things. One, I said that one of the first things I heard when I woke up from my sleep was the Warriors won. And looking back on it, it was not just the athletic basketball team Warriors that won. It was spiritual warriors that won, because I had fought a battle. And I found out over the course of the next couple of weeks all the things that happened to me. And I told you about some of the things, the blood clots, the heart attacks, and things like that. And the more she talked, now here's the thing. She did not tell me, because she gradually, all the things that I'd been through gradually came out. So when people were reacting to me kind of unique and different, I couldn't quite figure it out. I know my surgeon came in before I went to rehab, and he looked like he had seen a ghost. And now I'm understanding why. I didn't understand it at the time, but my wife revealed to me, speaking of my surgeon, that he had turned to her and my sister and said, Lacy died. And when she told me that, tears started coming down my face, not because I was sad or anything like this, because I don't go there, but because it brought both the worldly things that was going on in my life together with the spiritual things. And to this day, my medical team tells me, because I'm Lacy L. Johnson, that the L in my middle name stands for Lazarus. They're just amazed that I'm here. Went through some tough weeks of rehab. When they sent me over to the rehab, I had zero energy. I could barely sit up for 10 or 15 seconds. But since that time, you see, and this was in like August, since that time, you see, I'm probably 85, 90% recovered. It's a blessing from God. I drove down 2,500 miles round trip to my class reunion in Natchez, Mississippi. And that's always a spiritual journey anyway. And so it brought all that back together. So bottom line is that I'm here. I was gone for those months because I had spinal surgery. We had some heck of a complications after my final surgery. God brought me through like I knew he would, and he always does. And it's just been an amazing experience. So that's where I was. That's why I was out so long. And I'm just happy to be here and blessed to be here. And I tell everyone that, I'm a fan of Martin Luther King. I'm a fan of spiritual people. And my favorite speech of Reverend Dr. King is his "I've been to the mountaintop." And that's the speech that he delivered the night before they assassinated him. And why I like that speech is a couple of things. There's so many themes in that speech. His lack of fear, and he made sure he indicated he was not fearing no man or no one or nothing. And I think I have that same spirit. I tell people I don't do fear, I don't do stress, I don't do worry, I don't do strain. And so I appreciate that about what he said in that. He talked about how longevity in life, that's a good thing, but he wasn't really worried about that right now. And longevity has its rewards. He talked about that. But the most important thing that struck me is that he said, I just want to do God's will. And once again, spiritual people know what I'm talking about. Non-spiritual people, they probably thinking I'm some type of fanatic. I don't know. But I just want to do God's will. And that's the way I feel about my life. I think that he brought me back from death. And I'm here to go forward and do the best job I can to serve my community, to serve my state, to serve my city, to serve my country, to serve my family, and most importantly, to serve God. And that's the way I look at it. So that, I think I came out of rehab the first week of August. They wanted me on in-home rehab for a couple of weeks. So that took me to the end of August. And like I say, my 50th year class reunion was coming up first part of September. And I said to myself, because Natchez and my classmates are that special to me, if there's any way I can go, I'm going. The other thing was I had a lot of just about every friend and family was telling me not to go, advising me against it. But you know, when I said to some of them, I'm like, the God I serve is 100%er. He's not a 98%er. He's not going to get me 98% back well. He's going to get me 100% well. So I'm back here, ready to work, ready to do some great podcasts, ready to hear from you and have conversation and dialogue with you. And that's where I have been. And like I said, I started out saying that it was a wonderful, amazing journey. And nowhere during that whole time, there was a few moments. The toughest moment was when they moved me from the hospital to the rehab place. And I told you they had to go in and do a second surgery on my neck. They decided to do a swallow test. And the swallow test didn't turn out good. So they told me I could not eat or drink anything until I passed the swallow test. And that was about 3 weeks. And so for 3 weeks, all I could do was suck on ice chips, basically. And they had to put a tube down my nose to feed me. And that was the torture. I can't, it's indescribable the pain I went through when they put the tube down my nose. But here's the other spiritual aspect of that. And I always looked at it as a spiritual journey. I looked at it as God wanted me to do more with my life than what I was doing. He knew in order to do that, I needed a spiritual, physical, mental, and emotional overall. And that's what that whole experience provided me. And so what I'm saying is that, look, being not able to eat for 3 weeks or drink for 3 weeks, and I'm saying not even a sip of water, by the way, what that did was it forced me to fast. And, I've been reading, all my life about fasting and praying and stuff. Well, that forced me into that situation. It forced me to do a lot of studying and research, forced me to rely on the Holy Ghost to provide knowledge and understanding. And so the whole while I was going through this, what some people consider a tough experience, I was just enjoying the spiritual journey. And I just learned a lot. I grew a lot, and I'm thankful for it. And so between the not eating and just being able to, I had to lay on my back, by the way. That's the other thing. I laid on my back looking up to this heaven the whole 46 weeks or whatever. And that was probably the toughest part. I think the toughest part was I just wasn't used to being still. I was used to when I get tired, just get up and go, or when I got bored, just go do something. Well, I said bored is not the word because I've never been bored in my life. And maybe that was the first time I was because I wasn't able to get up and do anything. The only thing I was able to do was lay on my back and maybe watch TV, and I realized what a wasteland TV is and all the senseless stuff that's on there. But I'm here today. I'm healthy, I think. I'm blessed, and I'm thankful. And that's what all the things I went through. My wife was great. My siblings were great. Everyone who knew me, I got well wishes and prayers from all over the country and certain parts of the world. Genuine people with genuine prayers and things for me, and I could feel it. And so I got to do a lot more with my life, and that's my testimony of what I went through those months when I wasn't on the air. And so I'm going to spend the rest of my time trying to make a difference in people's lives and in this world, and try to do all the things that God wants me to do. So that's where I am in life. I'm not ashamed to say, while down for my class reunion, September 2nd, I experienced my 68th birthday. And I think I'm still young and still got a lot in the tank. I never planned on retiring per se, because I think retirement, this is the attitude I used to have. I think retiring was like kind of coasting to the finish line of life. And I never liked the idea of coasting to the finish line. So I'm like, I'm going to get up and work every day till I can't work anymore. And I want to drop dead working. But now I'm reassessing things, and I might want some time off to do some writing and spend some more time with my wife and family and things like that, and semi-retire to my hometown in Natchez, Mississippi, which is about 40 miles from Alcorn State University. And I think of sitting around, ideally, writing an epic poem on the Civil War and being a part-time teacher at Alcorn State, either in computer science or English. I haven't decided which. I love both of them. And so that's probably what I want to do. I want to get up and go fishing, or at least eat fresh fish every day, and just enjoy the Southern way of life. And while I was down at my class reunion, I realized how much I miss that way of life, how much I miss being around just good people. People don't understand where I grew up. I didn't know any liars. I didn't know any thieves. I didn't know any, people who did bad things. We just all worked together, black and white, and we tried to be good people until I left home, and I found out there was a lot of selfish, bad people who only look out for themselves. There was a lot of liars, robbers, stealers, and murderers out there. There was a lot of people out there who didn't cherish knowledge and education. I found all this out after I left Natchez, Mississippi, and I've been around, seen a good part of the world. Been around a lot of rich, smart, educated, intelligent people. And what I realized at this stage in life, everything I was looking for, I had it all the time, and how blessed I was. And I tell people I had a perfect childhood, and I look back on it, and the reason I did, because I had God in my life. I had two great parents. I had a great family. I had great adults in my life. I had an older friend, about 5 or 6 years older than I was, a very smart guy who took all us young guys under his wings and taught us things, and he was like a mentor to us. And we had great music. Don't underestimate the importance of music to a person who's don't have a lot of money and things like that, and just working hard. And we had a great culture, and we had great food. And to me, that's 95% of joy and happiness in life. And what it also did for me, as a person, I don't connect money and joy and happiness. I know that you can have a lot of joy and happiness in life, and it's not dependent on money. And so a lot of people don't understand why I'm not one of those people who constantly chasing money. Well, number one, God has always taken care of me and provided me like he promised he would do. And two, once again, we didn't have much money. I think I once asked my dad how much money we had when we were growing up in this 3-room house until I got to the 4th grade. And he said, about $50 a week. And this is with 9 children, $50 a week. But I understood the value of hard work and discipline and faith and things like that. And that was what got me here. And I'm going to end with this, because I hope the theme has been faith. But I tell everybody, I left home 5 days after graduation, and I had to come here because they had a job line. I was headed to the University of Minnesota, and former football player at the University of Minnesota who was dating my sister at the time, he knew an owner of a bakery, and he had lined up me a job here at $4.34 an hour, and people might laugh, but that was a lot of money back to me in the early 70s. And so I left home 5 days to journey out into life. And I tell everybody, when I left home, I felt like I was prepared for anything the world had brought my way. And to this day, going through what I went through recently, reaching my 68th birthday, that has not changed. I don't think there's anything the world can bring my way that I'm not prepared for, spiritually prepared for, because mostly that's the most important thing. And I've always had a spiritual perspective on life. While everybody else is chasing and worrying and stressing and straining, I've just always had a spiritual perspective on life. And I believe the scripture, and I believe that if I just did what I had to do, God would take care of the rest. And I'm a testimony that that is true. So thanks for your patience. Thanks for listening to me on that. Been through a tough time, came through it. Like I say, some people said I died and came back to life. I'm not going to argue with them because that's how God has me feeling right now. So thank you very much. Keep listening to the podcast every week. We're going to bring you some great guests. We're going to bring you some inspiring topics. I'm going to bring you some inspiring opinions on current events. And we're going to go from there. And I'm going to do it with courage. I'm going to do it with truthfulness. And I'm going to do it with the will of God in me. So thank you very much. Stay tuned next week. Lacy Johnson Podcast. And hey, let me hear from you. LacyJohnson.com is my website. Give me some feedback. Let me know some topics. Oh, and by the way, I'm always interested in people who have a different viewpoint than I do. Most liberals I know, they love diversity as long as you agree with them. And when you don't agree with them, they need safe space to get away from you. And I have a lot of liberal Democrat friends like that, a lot of family members like that. But I'm the exact opposite. I don't believe in censoring anybody. I think everybody should be heard. I love people who disagree with me. So feel free to call and disagree with me. If you like what I'm doing, let me know. If you don't like what I'm doing, let me know. If you got suggestions, let me know. Lacy Johnson Podcast. See you next week.